Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you so much. If everyone can please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Greco, lead us please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you very much. If everybody can please silence your electronic devices. I would like to also mention, it looks like we have a few students here on your sheets. My name is Timothy Crumley. I'm running the meeting. I believe that's the line on your sheet. At the end of the meeting, any of the board members can sign your sheets. You don't have to go to any one individual, but you can go to any board member and they can sign your sheets. Motion to move the agenda to the table. Made by Mrs. Weiner, seconded by Mrs. Rivera. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much. Dr. Evans, additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm recommending that the board consider removing action item T4 from the agenda.
Motion to remove T4 from the agenda made by Mrs. Jersey, seconded by Mrs. Rivera. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. T4 is now removed. Motion to adopt the agenda as amended, made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Mrs. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Approval of minutes, October 20th, 2022. Motion made by Mrs. Rivera, seconded by Mrs. Weiner. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much. Leanna, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Our student board member update. I didn't even forget you this time. Got you last.
So this Saturday, we have a football game at Chester. November 14th, winter sports will be starting. As for lunch, yesterday and today, we had a salad bar open. Not really with salad on it, but fruits and vegetables and such. The student body would like it if maybe there could be some kind of ranch or dressing in there. Included this something for the vegetables. The meals have been a little bit better over the past 2 weeks, but the printed menu is not always accurate, so that affects things we bring lunch to school depending on. Like today was supposed to be some kind of roast beef, but it was pizza instead. The RJK musical is November 18th and 19th. The auditions for the high school musical is November 17th. All state music festival is the 18th and 19th. We have 3 students who have earned the distinction. Our Veterans Day Assembly is November 10th, and we're really glad to be doing this all in person again. We also kicked off the Thanksgiving food drive this week. Parent teacher conferences, November 18th. November 10th is the end of our first marking period. We also have Panther merch available on the website for the boys basketball team. Your last day to buy in is Monday. And our winter spirit week will be December 10th through the 17th, kicking it off with the high school drama and ending it with the Jingle Ball tournament and dance that following Saturday.
Any questions for Leanna?
Is the Jingle Ball going to be formal or is it?
I think it's going to be like a little dance thing, like a little formal, yeah.
And what is it themed for the spirit?
I can ask Ms. Hurley. Back to you.
And the food drive, you guys go out to the public?
I don't know. Like to collect money?
Money, food, turkeys, corn, cranberry sauce.
What we do is we send little envelopes to every teacher first period, and they collect from teachers, from students, and then we gather all that together, and then people go out and buy food and put it together in a really great way.
Did you talk to whoever runs that and have them send an envelope to me?
Did you send an email?
Yeah, well, an email.
I believe last year we all took an action, giving donation.
Yeah.
And I wrote a check to somebody, I don't know. Yeah.
Is Gloria running?
It is Miss Gloria, yes.
I'll find out from Ms. Gloria.
Thank you.
Just another resource. Any other questions for Leanna? Thank you very much. No presentations this evening. Which moves us to Adriana.
I'd like to motion for the consideration of the consent agenda items that two.
I have a second, made by Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much, Mrs. Greco. Moving on. Board roundtable, I don't know how everybody looked closely at the agenda, but number 7 in here is the NISBA convention update. So if you have anything about the convention, you can probably just hold on to that for a hot second. But we are on board roundtable. I'm gonna start. Linka.
Good evening, everyone. I had the pleasure of attending with fellow trustees this year's NISBA convention as the voting delegate for this district. And it was my first time attending the law conference in person, which was more informative versus virtual, which was a great opportunity to interact with the districts and just share ideas and talk on topics that were covered. And that's.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Riley.
I attended the football game last Saturday. I was really excited when I saw 2 of the touchdowns of 3. Really got there about 8 minutes late, so I missed one of the touchdowns, but it's very exciting to see. I thought maybe we should get some cowbell or something because I just thought that I was there and there needed to be more sound, in my opinion. But it was really exciting to see, and it was a great day. It's a beautiful day for it. Also, I went to the Cook School trunk or treat. Even though my child goes to Chase, he's in 2nd grade and he missed the dance. There's a Chase dance on last Friday, the same day as the trunk or treat. So yeah, resist the trunk or treat. So we all did that, and my son dressed like a s'more, and we gave us some s'mores. So we met some people in the community, and it was wonderful. It was a great time. Other than that, the law conference, I only went to the law conference, which was on a Thursday in Syracuse. But it's very beneficial. I learned a lot from the lawyers that were there that represented NICED, and then also the School Boards Association, as well as the lawyers for schools in New York. So it's just a good perspective on what court cases that they picked to discuss, and what the cases dealt with when it came to parents and guardians advocating for their child, and what the school board was doing and advocating for the parents for the school. So it was just really, really informative. Thanks. You reminded me, I did attend the Chase Halloween parade. So hats up to Mr. Frandino, the administration personnel, and staff. The students had a wonderful time marching down the street, and just so excited to see everyone in costume. So wonderful job. And we were all dancing to Michael Jackson on this side. So it was very nice. So awesome job, Chase. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Linka.
Sorry.
Mrs. Russo.
I attended the strategic planner meeting at Wardsboro Tuesday, and I also attended open house. And I was just wondering if we could possibly have a presentation from the civic seal, Mrs. Charlie.
Seal of civic readiness.
Yes. If we could have a possible presentation of that and computer science as well, because I didn't understand half the stuff that he was talking about, the classes that they offered. I was quite amazed at what we wanted to do.
Well, let me talk to Dr. Ola Marks and Mr. Wilder to see if there's maybe a more encompassing presentation that with different aspects of what we offer, rather than just a standalone for seal of civic readiness and another one.
That'd be great. The open house was amazing. I learned a lot about what classes they children are taking. They did a wonderful job at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grove.
Had the honor of attending the annual conference in Syracuse, and it was the best one yet for networking with other school board members. Not just that, but the education and hopefully we can even get a speaker up about school security from Armor Point, and extremely knowledgeable. And I'm looking forward to more fiscal benefits to the district that we can package together, and I'm very, very excited about what's in store for myself. That's it.
Well, I too attended that wonderful conference, and I don't know, because it wasn't just virtual, but being there live, the law seminar was the best one that we've had so far on my tenure board. I wanted to bounce off of, we actually sat in on, not sure which one of the lectures, but it talked about the civic seal. And it also was very educational, so I have some information on that, but I remember them saying that. I think it was in, I think it was in one of the lectures I was reviewing, that, you know, there was a time where, pre-COVID, everybody, in order to get into school, they had to take the SATs and all this other stuff. But the schools aren't looking at that anymore as much. Even Harvard isn't requiring it. But now there's this new program for the civic seal. The kids are getting this, that I'm a good person, ready to, a good learner, and I'm making be a good person in our community. And that's, you know, what the colleges are looking for, and that's something to put into the child's resume to promote them into their college readiness. So that was what I had picked up from it. I'm not sure if I'm right, but that's what I remember. And I attended last JV was soccer game, so they won against Liberty. A lot of the games for poor kids were rained out. And I will tell, in case anybody doesn't know, I couldn't attend because I had conflicts, the CDEP meetings, but it was on video, it's live on YouTube, off our links. And if anybody hasn't seen it, I highly recommend spending the time. It's a phenomenal presentation of where our school is heading and all the great work that we did. So that was phenomenal. And then I had a really great time on Monday. The Rutherford School came to my job and trick or treated through the government center. And I think we served 576 kids candy, sugar them up and send them home. But the teachers were all dressed and the kids had the time of their lives. And it was such a good time for the kids and for us adults. So we took lots of pictures and then we didn't post because we weren't sure if we could or not. So, but we had a great time posing with the parents who came to help out the teachers. The teachers, every single one of the teachers was dressed up with these kids, and they were just phenomenal from Rutherford School. So I wanted to say thank you to our teachers. That's it. That's you. I don't have any additional reports.
Adriana?
I attended a couple of volleyball games, a football game, and a high school open house, which I thought, although I got my steps in, it was very fun.
I also attended the NISBA conference, which was very nice, an owners meeting that Wednesday, which we'll be extrapolating on in a little bit. Volleyball and soccer games like Helen. I do want to thank all of the coaches in the fall season. In particular, I know the volleyball coaches kind of swapped around a little bit to have a successful year, as did the soccer coaches. Darren Rayner was, I think, initially an assistant JV coach and got moved down to the head modified coach. Stepped up with quite a large group of boys, and they had a pretty successful season. But thank you to all the coaches who give their time to the student athletics. That's pretty much concludes my report. So moving on to principal reports. Any questions or comments regarding principal reports, Victoria?
I do. For the pre-K program. I remember the last meeting, Dr. Marks, you mentioned something about the pre-K special ed being approved. What was exactly approved?
So we were not a site to provide preschool special education services until we had approval, so that because we need to be reimbursed by the county for their services, right? And so that approval payments, we could open classrooms, the self-contained classrooms, there's 2 of them. And then we have our vision kids in, but now we can offer them the special education services.
So any district can send their pre-K through to our district. and serve.
So I do know that Mrs. Gore has been in contact with, has been in constant contact with the other districts about their needs so that we can do everything we can to accommodate them.
So are we waiting on anything, or are we ready to accept our students?
We still don't have our reimbursement rate on the inclusion, is that correct? Stan? So we can't provide a contract with the other districts until we have that reimbursement.
When do we think that will be ready?
We've been asking since August. So. Yeah, I probably every couple of days, either one of us will reach out and ask.
And then for Ms. Knowlton, the rate of absences for the students, is it broken down like our homeless population, the attendance?
So I'm sorry?
Ms. Knowlton's,
They break down the attendance to demographic.
Not in this report, no.
do you think that's a good thing?
If the board feels that that would be useful, we can talk to the principals about how they data that they report.
I just would like to know if maybe that population is more school.
That would kind of be at the building level.
They might already.
When I looked at all the numbers, I looked at them as the people who actually had attendance on their reports, for the most part, they went up
Oh, yeah, no, they did it. It was
to,
90 something percent. I'm just curious, that 27%.
chronic absence is down 27.2 percentage points from this time last year. Chronic absence is 25.9. Now that's a skewed number because last year we were kind of also still in COVID. So you had people that were maybe being cautious or had COVID or whatever the case may be. So I mean, it's kind of almost apples and oranges to compare the last 2 years to what we're doing right now. But the fact that they're not above 90 in itself is,
Yeah.
because I think if you went back 3 or 4 years ago, those numbers might be 88, 89 in that range, which might also reflect 2 years of COVID of people being home and are like, I want to go to school.
And they do track individual student absences, so the students, the 26% of the students, which is still a significant number for chronic gaps, they're on the radar of school staff.
And then I just want to know, has anybody else looked at Mr. Wilder's report about the referrals? And you can see the major difference from 2008, 2009 to the present. I mean, that's pretty significant drop in referrals.
I remember correctly, there was some type of different way that we asked, or not we asked, but they were putting them in a system, some different type of system they had to put into.
The reports,
Yeah.
report or something.
I think that was the biggest. I don't remember.
Are you talking about the out of school suspension data?
In general, if you look from the 2017, 2018, I think November was 50, 2021, 2022 was 33.
Right, so those are suspended. I didn't see the report. I'm clarifying. It's not full data.
I'm sorry.
It's out of school suspension data.
Yeah, suspension data. I just think that's a significant.
I think that might have been a change in, I can't remember correctly, but
There was.
I'm willing to bet, because I asked a lot of those questions when I first got on the board.
If it's days or instances or incidents or
Yes.
something to that effect that was changed.
Well, and a change in culture is not the right word. I'm willing to bet those years correspond to changing in superintendents. And then realistically, the last 2 years has been COVID, but that kind of really skews those numbers. The 2021 numbers are basically non-existent because they weren't even in school that year. Any other questions?
Just the food at St. John. How is that prepared? Is it just sent over? So how are we ensuring that it's not getting over there soggy or cold or?
So they have an oven and they have hot boxes there, so they can maintain that temperature.
Thank you.
Any other, Mrs. Wayne?
It's just one thing that we forgot. You all forgot to let everybody know we had a wonderful walkthrough of the for school today, and I want to thank Mr. Palmer for his generous tour and spending time with us before this time.
You are correct. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Ashley?
I just wanted to know, and it was about the out of school suspension, so I was looking at the same thing. And I realized, they perhaps changed in how things were documented. So I'm just looking at, say, 2015 to 16, where it says total 64. And then the next year 62, and then 81, and then 65, and then 53, and then that odd year 20 to 21, where there's 10.
Yeah.
And even the year before, you could say was an odd year because we missed a few months there at the end. So then last year was back to about 100. So when we talk about the 3-year plan to be at 50% of that, I'm just, my general question would be, is it the average of these years? So are we talking like cut down the strategic plan that was spoke about at Chase School and that at the middle school?
Yeah, well, the strategic plan, yeah, we've been looking at the total district suspensions of 21, 22 as the next.
Okay.
So the
So
111
you're going back
number,
down to 50-ish. So it's at 64, 62, 81, and then from 110
11.
going to like.
yeah. Well, this is just the high school, so there's also the middle school and the elementary schools as well. That would be, but yeah, be the 21, 22.
Any other questions on the principal reports? Okay. Upcoming events. Posted in the agenda or upcoming events. Janet also wanted me to remind you that there is a Sullivan County School Boards Association November dinner meeting coming up on November 4th. A few people have responded that they are attending. If you would like to attend that, please contact Janet so she knows and she can RSVP. So they have the appropriate number of tables and chairs and everything else. Sooner the better.
No, by tomorrow.
Needs to know by tomorrow. So go home, check with the member. All right, well, if anyone's going to be attending, please contact Janet by tomorrow morning. And so she can get that off to Sullivan County School Boards Association.
I have something for upcoming events. Boy Scout Troop 101 is having a penny social tribute train to help raise money for the boys who are going to Jamboree in West Virginia.
What time is that?
Doors open at 6 o'clock. Call-ins at 7. There's gonna be food to buy. If you're hungry, you get like a cookie and no, actually it's popcorn and lemonade.
And that'll be Saturday at the Rock Hill Firehouse.
Yes, it is.
So if you have an extra $1 in your pocket, come and throw it in a cup. It's a policy committee.
Thank you, Mr. Crumley. A few things under policy committee. The board policy committee will be meeting again on prior to the next board meeting, November 17th at 5:30 p.m. Robert J. Kaiser Middle School Library. We will be reviewing updated policy changes that are recommended from the New York State School Boards Association. Probably half of them are based upon whether or not the Board of Education decides to go into that video conference policy. And that was discussed at the last policy committee meeting. There was really no determination made at that time because there are things, that we would have to do to make those meetings align with that new policy proposal. The other thing that we'll begin discussions on at that meeting is our district clerk, Ms. Leibel, has finished her kind of inventory of the adoption dates of all of our policies. Thank you, Ms. Leibel. And that's that is included in the meeting notes here, and the policy committee will begin discussing what to do with them and which ones should we prioritize. Do we start with policy 0-100? Do we start with the oldest ones first? What have you? And also, lastly, the board is doing a second reading of its capital project policy proposed revisions this evening, with an intent to possibly adopt at the next meeting.
So essentially, the second reading, this is the second reading, and then if everything goes forward, we would actually adopt that policy at the next meeting. So it's really a 3-meeting cycle.
I have a quick question. Where it says the board will appoint an owner's representative, does that mean that person's gonna be paid?
Yes.
And how do you figure out how much pay they get?
Well, we would do an RFP, see what the request for proposals, kind of like a bid, see what comes in.
And that would be their only job is to oversee.
It would be the owner's representative on any capital project over $10 million.
Any other questions on policy?
I super appreciate the list. Is there any way that we could get it into the, like the spreadsheet so that we can manipulate it, or could I get one?
I think, yes, I had to do it as a PDF to put it on a Word doc,
Okay,
but I can email you my spreadsheet.
I would super appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. We good on policy?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Correspondence outcomes are in the agenda from questions and comments from the public last meeting. That brings us to capital project update. Dr. Evans.
So good evening, everyone. Before I call up Mr. Ladany, who's here from our architect CPL to answer any questions you might have on our, we have 3 change orders that the board will be acting upon tonight. Just generally speaking, the board's capital project oversight committee will be meeting next Tuesday at, is that right? November 8th. Tuesday, November 8th at 4:30 p.m. in the district office. You'll see that significant progress has been made on the bus parking lot as well as the tennis courts. And we're hoping to start blacktopping those next week. I believe Monday for one and Wednesday for the other. But we're confident that that blacktopping will begin next week, weather permitting, and hopefully this weather continues and we'll be able to do that. But they have made contact with the suppliers and we're confident that those will go ahead as planned. So tonight, the board will be acting on 3 change orders. They're for different contracted work. Here tonight to answer any questions that the board might have is Chris Ladany of CPL. So Chris, welcome. So these change orders are work from our plumbing contractor as well as our electrical contractor. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Good to see you guys again. About weeks ago, we did the walk through the high school. So now that the kind of rush of the summer construction season is over, we're really buckling down and paperwork to make sure that we're closing the loop on all the different financials, state and things like that. So part of that is getting kind of on the same page with the contractors financially. Some of these change orders, some of the line items that you do see other change orders. Different periods of the project, mostly on the solid or hot and heavy. We're trying to get it done, keep people moving. Again, I'm here to. Dr. Evans did a good job with the update. Great progress on exterior work at this point. Mother Nature has been a challenge, to say the least. But with that, we're still looking for next week to have the bus garage parking done, and then also the tennis courts paved as well. At the high school, the metal panels are going up. You'll see on the south side of the building, so that's the courtyard side of the building. in some angles, you can kind of see back there, you can see that side of the building is getting close to being fully skinned, as we say in the industry, but it basically is a panel cladding. So, besides that, we are next week doing a couple of punch lists of different areas, or room 107, and we're also in the new steam room. We're gonna have our team out there to look at it, make sure that the contractors are taking care of any odds and ends that repair or fixing. You probably remember during our walkthrough, there's a couple things that you pointed out, hey, this is gonna get fixed, let's deal with this. That will get resolved with the punch list process. I appreciate everyone's patience. It's a long, drawn out process, kind of like the legal system in a sense, but the reason behind it just so that quality control, quality and safety. So. Let's see if you have any questions.
The lecture's already laid out for the warming for the buses.
So that's, they should be finished with that. I just talked to the electrician today. We should be done with that this week.
And the electric boxes in the Renault, it's all, they're all locked down.
Yeah. Yep.
Security.
Yep. Oh, so I'm not sure about that one that you flagged at the bottom of the stairs, 5 or 4. But first, Steve Lewis, Sue's not up that. So. Yeah. Yes.
I can check it out.
That's your check. Yeah. So here we go.
Did I see another hand over here? Going around, Helen?
What do we foresee as a time frame to finish around tennis courts to move all those fencing areas? Because it is very hazardous and students, especially when it's raining outside, do not want to walk through the mud and someone's gonna get hurt trying to walk on the side.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know that's a thorn in the district side. That bottleneck. So that with the paving, it's gonna be, we still have to temporarily protect the site to a certain extent, but once that paving is complete, you can get that fence a little tighter. We've been trying to get that fence closer to the project site, with more elbow room for circulation.
Well, that roadway is gonna grow a little bit, right?
The roadway is gonna grow.
Is there any way to tie that in with the paving over at the bus garage? I'll get 15 trucks instead of 13 trucks.
I wish you could, it's 2 separate contracts. Yeah, 2 separate contracts.
Did you have a time frame when that can happen? I mean, for the
Okay,
fencing, because
It would be within the next 2 weeks or so. I can get back to the board through Dr. Evans on exactly when that can happen. The internal team with our owners meetings that we do have, the job of raising the flag about that. So it's a known issue for sure. And we've been working on it to just minimize. It's a necessary evil at this point, but I totally see where you're coming from. We're doing our best to, not inconvenience the district. It's more than inconvenience. As you said, it's a safety issue. So.
We raised that at the owners meeting last week,
Yeah.
concern over it, and they, with Chase was gonna get more information.
Yeah, see what happens is it's just, it has time you raise something like that, a couple days afterwards, they're tight, they're good, and then as days goes on, people, different contractors, different subcontractors out there, they just, before you know it, they're back to where they were. We gotta remind them, hey, come on, you gotta, so it's just this constant reminder on a daily basis, to make sure the contract finishing up for the day. Not only they're cleaning up, but making the place secure and giving you guys some elbow room to actually operate in the building and the site. So I apologize for any of that, inconvenience and safety concern. But it was brought to our attention and we're working every day to try to minimize it. The faster we get this work done, the paving is a key part of it, the faster we see those fences go. So. But I'll make a call tomorrow morning to make sure that we're on it.
thank you.
Well,
Any other questions from the board?
I do have a question. When we did tour, the dishwashers were all bent up. It looks like it was supposed to be installed. Are we in charge again? Because I know someone said there are order and other ones that are being replaced.
look into that.
No, I don't.
I know that, so the dishwasher, I know what you're talking about, 'cause I was right next to you when you mentioned that. I'll have to take a peek if they're, you know, 'cause I'll be back in the site, not tomorrow, but totally next week. And I'll look into that, because the dishwasher is functional.
Yeah, but
It's more of I think it might be sitting a little on.
they were dented, they were dented.
Yeah, no,
Oh, they were dented?
yeah, my
Okay.
understanding is they were going to be replaced at no cost.
I know.
Okay,
That's, we will follow up the next owners meeting, but that was my last understanding.
okay. If it's his understanding, it would be with Myers. Because I know that Dr. Evans sometimes talks to their construction managers. Without me, they were just sort of fine, so he'll get some updates on some things based on them as well, so. Got that off the way, and that was, that's.
And you said the punch list?
Kind of a team effort there, so we get the contractor themselves to give us what they have in their heads of what they owe us, and have to make them put that on paper. Myself and my team would come out, add to that punch list. And then we collaborate with the construction manager. And then they add to the punch list, and we come to this final consensus of all these line items. We send that to the contractor. They're responsible for fixing everything that we flagged. Or if they feel like that's not their responsibility, then we have a conversation about that. Then ultimately, once they are done, and buttoning up all that, they have to put it in writing. So it's a process, but it's nonetheless, it's meant to be a team oriented, so we don't miss it.
You know, is the school administrator, Mr. Wiley, is like that team?
So Mr. Lewis would call that. So, but the thing is, if Mr. Wilder had some comments, he would convey those to Mr. Lewis or Dr. Evans or Sarah.
Oh, this process then?
Yeah, he would inform Mr. As you know, teachers and staff would inform him, he would expect, he would inform us on this.
And he's involved, regardless of the punch list process, he has notified us. Of different things that he'd like to have to do.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes. Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, Jen's not here, so I'm gonna take double duty.
That's right, yes.
Electrical changes per the Westmatic shop drawings. Westmatic is the bus
So, yeah, so this is a
cleaner.
exactly, that bus wash in the new bus garage, right?
Yeah.
That's the Westmatic system, right? So
Yeah.
the way we procured that was through state contract,
Yep,
right? So, this
so when the shop drawings got made of the space, you didn't know what was going in the space, so therefore it was kind of in addition to the contract.
exactly. So basically, we needed to run a little extra power for one of their pieces of equipment based on the way that we
Yep.
chopped it up.
So raised sprinkler piping in the bus garage due to conflicts with the bus when it's on the lift. We knew lifts were going in there.
Yep, so this is, the way that we had it worked. Okay, but it was close. So when those buses got up, you know.
You only had
seven-
less than a foot left.
It was close, so the consensus there was like,
Be safe
buses
in the
every
dark.
change, you know, let's just, you know, they got about halfway done with it, we noticed it. Come on,
Speaking of changes.
yeah, so,
So the other day, we won a school bus, an electric school bus.
you won one?
Yeah,
Wow.
Or ET.
it was right in the bottom of the box of Cheerios. It comes with a charger. Now that that's happening, we haven't paved yet. It would be interesting to see how we could avoid saw cutting that lovely blacktop in 6 months and maybe pre-install something before we blacktop it, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so
But were there accommodations made in some of that piping that we, because I mean, this is obviously a New York State thing after 2026. Theoretically, we're not really gonna be allowed to buy diesel buses, so it was something that was in the future realm anyways.
yeah.
Set up for that?
So there is fair conduit, and Dr. Evans, you attended the conference a couple months back, maybe it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw this coming, so we looked at our design and
Yeah.
our new, you know, setup. there's a couple things, like, as you said, it's kind of, this is, you know, blindsiding some people, and we were setting in, so a long road to get to where they want to go. But as far as, you know, the electric power that is put out to the engine block heaters, you know, they're gonna be able to do electric charging, but in a way where it would be so the infrastructure is there to do some versions of charging.
Yeah, but not an electric.
Not enough,
But
no.
there's extra 2s and 3s going back into the building to at least the initial handholds, so we can adapt and overcome later on without having to go all the way back to the building.
That's correct. Right, so if talking with my team, this is a kind of an unknown entity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because,
Well, when you have 10 buses and they sell you a charger that can do 10 buses, and now you're throwing in 300 MCM into a 3-inch pipe, you run out of pipe real
yeah,
quick.
exactly. So our company is working on a plant down south. And our electrical engineering, you know, team down there is looking at, it's actually a BMW plant, and they're adding to it, electric vehicle kind of thing. And if you do the normal calculations of how much demand you need, it's astronomical. So there's a lot of change, you know, like.
Well, theoretically, in
Right.
10 years, we're gonna have to install a 4,000 amp service outside to be able to utilize to do all the buses.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you know it better than I do as far as electrical stuff. I mean, honestly, that's, you know, so I have the team that
But
knows.
that's 10 years in the future.
Right.
Maybe New York State will back to.
Yeah, which I think is.
Yeah.
And I know that there's you know, it's like your iPhones or iPads, it's like the smaller charger and the bigger charger.
Yeah.
Some, you know, so there's a lot to it.
And the only thing I had on the last one was the plumbing extra charges at the high school. Replace damaged fixture, 2973.
So what happened there, so this was from the winter, so over the winter, when we had some of the building opened up, a lot of building opened up.
Yeah.
We had temporary protection on the side, and we had temporary heat. Bathrooms that are close to the cafeteria. Nobody knows who, but the door for that black bathroom was closed. It was supposed to stay open. So when it was closed on a Friday, so over the weekend, some of the pipes froze between those bathrooms that are, you know, part of this falls those fixtures that were pipes froze and were damaged, but that's that line.
So that's for numerous fixtures, a couple urinals, a couple toilets.
Yeah, it's a couple toilets, I think it's about 2 or 3 toilets and 1 urinal for sure.
Okay, so it's not for a fixture, it's for fixtures.
Fixtures.
Sorry, my stuff's really small.
No, yeah, I know, and I could have said picture.
All right. So that was to, so now that bathroom is getting new, has basically new urinals, new toilets.
Yep.
And it should have a little bit of a makeover, even though it wasn't part of the
A
project.
little bit, yeah, new facade, painting,
Yep.
some new toilet partitions. Some new heating element, pseudo makeover.
And it's gonna be working soon.
Very soon, just gotta paint. I know you guys are on it, and it's an important thing to get back online. We had a little hiccup with privacy film on the glass, so.
Right.
But bottom line, we know that's a priority in trying to get that online.
I think I took care of my engine. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. So we don't know who closed the door. So it's side door.
Yes.
So are we being charged for those pictures?
Those pictures you are, yeah. Sometimes this happens.
We don't, yeah.
On contractors. District staff, people like me walking through there. So.
What the district staff was there?
And at the end of the day, you also have to think about it this way. We would have had, sooner or later, we would have had to replace those fixtures anyways, because that bathroom theoretically wasn't really supposed to get touched, so we would have had this whole project done. It would have been old toilets, old urinals in there. Now they're all new toilets, new urinals. So at the end of the day, the $3,000 to replace them is probably something that should have been done anyways. So at the end of the day, having new fixtures in that bathroom, I don't know if you want to call it a happy accident, but now there's new fixtures in that bathroom.
There's a lot of things that are sending them to.
Any other questions for Chris? Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Great. Sorry, it just took me a second to find my spot. So NISBA convention update. I know most of us who went to the convention said that we went to the convention. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to inform the board about? Linka?
Yes, I would just like to mention, one of the most exciting parts of the convention was our Friday keynote speaker, who was Marley Matlin. For those of you that don't know, she is the first deaf actress to win an Academy Award and Oscar, and most recently Coda is out, so I encourage everyone to see it. This is not a plug for her, but she gave a very moving speech, and it was very important. You know, being a mother of a child that currently is on an IEP and is in a special education classroom, she talked about DEI, and when she talked about DEI, she added an A at the end for diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And that was a very important, driving that message to all of us that were there. Talking about her personal experiences, her parents choosing to put her through public education, and the key role that teachers played, especially those special education teachers, in her success. Many children who have educational challenges really rely on those supports to really encourage them. So, special thanks to our special education department, administration, our curriculum, just appreciative of all of the hard work that goes into our children and our students. You truly play a huge role in inspiring all of our students, my child, and any child that have an idea or, to really dream. So your role is so important to all of them. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I was hysterical crying, but it was very moving. So just wanted to give.
Thank you very much. Ashley, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. So I only went to the Thursday law portion, which was a full day, and just the topics that were talked about were textbook censorship, employee speech, relations with non-public schools, and the current state of special education, to name a few. They went over the latest US Supreme Court ruling about the school called Bremerton, where a coach kneeled on the field to pray. So they went over that case and they discussed it in contrast to former laws that were based upon the Lemon law. It was a case that regarded how you could slay your faith as a person that works in the school and not come across as being somebody who is pushing it on students. So I thought that was an interesting point that they brought up. And they also talked about how there's an extraordinary case with a court case, New York State court case with the Amish community, and how they had been granted certain rights that they saw were exceptional and extraordinary as far as what the standards were in our state. So I just thought, like, in a nutshell, I thought it was very useful to see court cases that talked about the parents and guardians wanting certain rights, and then how that played out in the courts, and also when the school board went to talk about what they wanted to do, maybe perhaps take some books out of the library, and how the state, how they saw things in the courts to say that under this certain criteria, you couldn't take out books willy-nilly. They were on certain guidelines. So I just thought that was very informative. So I appreciated going there. Thank you.
Very much. Todd?
One of the byproducts of going to the NISBA conference a couple of years ago was the benefit of bringing in a group, BCG group that is now renamed, rebranded Inertia. And because seeing a presentation where an entity in Connecticut was able to save $60,000 a year in their energy costs, I am over the moon excited that we are still on board to save $50,000 a year for contracting with them and their energy savings. Then to capitulate on top of that, to have met architects who were helping brainstorm how we could get a future project that can help Monticello hugely with related to sports, and funding it is just, to me, overwhelmingly satisfying, because it's having everybody in a central part of New York and having a whole lot of very smart people dealing with the school systems and how they can benefit and the relationships. It was the most pumped up part of my time there. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Grover. Mrs. Wayne.
Just to, I guess to add to both Ms. Riley and to Ms. Rivera, the feel of the law seminar was really driving all of the case law, how times are changing. Setting these cases that they discussed with the football player kneeling in prayer on the field are changing. They're setting new precedents and new standards going forward in our school. The points were made that we have to, it's kind of more of an eye opener on the way we operate, being aware of the changes and how the new justice is possible, maybe not so much in school's favor. I think they're doing the right thing. Maybe in the favor of the coach or the teacher with regard to their rights versus rights that we were under the impression that the school had at the time. In addition, I sat in on the before we go there, the other thing with the board, with the law seminar, it was really an outline of a lot of things that the board's responsibility was and their role as a trustee and as a member, like what we could and couldn't do and what our responsibilities were. We're outlining a lot of the different items that were discussed, which I found very educational. Being on the board for the amount of time I am, I never got that education that I received in that World Conference on that day on Thursday. I don't know if that's COVID, I live in a vacuum when we're so focused on COVID, but it was nice to have the overall law and the overall discussion so that I could be a better board member coming forward. And I sat in with Ms. Rivera on 2 presentations with the DEI, so that, and I was very educated, learned a lot, and like she had said, access. We can do everything we want to help our students, but if we don't give them access to what they need, we're doing nothing. So that was something that I also took home. And so did the presenters, because they all talked about what she had to say. And I have a lot of ideas going forward, and I want to put my notes together, and I'm sure Mr. Barrett does, on DEI in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiner. I also attended the NISBA conference, my first time. Made me break out of my shell a little bit. I don't particularly like talking to people. But the small conversations you have, whether at the conference or at the hotel in the lobby or wherever the case may be, and hearing other people's struggles, maybe the same, maybe different, their ideas, how they overcame. I found those to be pretty informative. Me and Dr. Evans sat next to a superintendent from down in Westchester. He had gone through some trials and tribulations with certain things, and kind of just those discussions, realizing that whatever does happen, it's probably happened somewhere else, and other people have overcome it, and that there is a way to do it and overcome whatever those things are. I attended a few breakout sessions. One was on how to evaluate this fellow over here, which has a new president, I found to be very informative. And the other was they did a presentation on the Uvalde shootings, which occurred down in Texas. They hit on a bunch of topics. A lot of it kind of revolved around, doing drills as drills should be done. sugarcoating them a little bit, but not so much as to lose the effectiveness of it. Locked doors, things of that nature, and things that, the easy things that you can do to help prevent certain things. And the numbers and stats that they throw out there are pretty telling, in terms of simple things like locking doors, not chalking outside doors and things of that nature. So overall, I think it was a good experience for everybody, and thank you to the taxpayers for sending us there. We appreciate it. So moving on. Community events. We have a few listed there: fire safety at Chase, Sullivan County Chamber events, School Board Association honors and Democrat. As Victoria mentioned, there's a tricky tray at the Rock Hill Firehouse on Saturday. Please come out and support your local Boy Scout troops. Moving on, Janet's going to get the sign-up sheet for questions and comments from the public, and she's nodding in the negative. So, no questions and comments from the public at the present time? Thank you so much. Dr. Evans, Superintendent update and information.
Thank you, President Crumley, and tonight, welcome a new member to our faculty and family, and that is Ms. Gladys Martinez, who is a new Spanish teacher. Welcome, Senora Martinez, and yes, I did say Spanish teacher.
Bienvenido.
Bienvenido.
Welcome, thank you for joining us. And some more good news, and President Crumley touched upon this earlier. You know, I too attended the NISBA convention, and after about the third colleague of mine who came up to me and congratulated the district on winning an electric bus, I'm like, I better see what this is about. So I want to thank our transportation department, Ms. Sklar. I want to thank Ms. Fela, and I believe Leonard Bus Sales kind of underwrote this grant for us with the Environmental Protection Agency. Because we are the lucky recipients. Some of you know how well I do at conventions.
Yes.
We won an it had nothing to do with that. But we won a grant for $375,000 for an electric bus and approximately $20,000 for charging hardware to go along with it. And we are very appreciative of that. And this is really, the timing could not be better, because it really gives us an opportunity to trial what an electric bus will bring, and the maintenance and how we run it and how long we can run it. They operate, you know, slightly differently than gas powered vehicles. Everything in the electric bus will draw on the battery. So there's no more, you know, kind of recharging the battery as you drive. And President Crumley touched on this before when Mr. O'Daney was here talking about how we're wiring the electric charging stations in the new bus parking lot to ready for that. So just some dates, and I know President Crumley, you touched upon these. New York state law prohibits school districts and transportation companies from buying any more gas or diesel powered vehicles after July 1st, 2027. So effective that date forward, the only school buses we can purchase are electric powered vehicles.
We buy new engines.
I don't know, you know, we'll see how things are going in 2027. And again, according to New York state law, by July 1st, 2035, there shall be no more gas or diesel powered vehicles. So all school buses at that point have to be electric powered vehicles. So these are the timelines as they currently exist. There are a lot of questions about the implementation timeline, but again, this electric school bus will be very well received by us and the transportation department. Assessing school climate, I'll be beginning my student roundtable meetings this month with middle school and high school representatives. I provided the board with a list of topics that are going to be discussed each month. We thought it was best to get those topics out there so students could think about, you know, what they might want to say around them. No, food service is not at the top of the list. School safety, though, is. But we will get to food service. I'm glad to hear that some progress is being made there. And we are posting for a book manager. We talked about an executive chef last time, but the technical civil service title is cook manager. This would be a full-time position who would manage our kitchens and cafeteria staff in preparation of meals. Again, I also attended the school board's convention and just being able to network with other colleagues, Board of Education members, and vendors about the different challenges that we're all facing. Staffing update, I want to thank our coaches, teachers, administrators, clerical and paraprofessional staff, all that they're doing right now to pitch in and make sure that our athletic programs are running. We're kind of winding down the season, the fall seasons, they end this weekend. We have a bit of a hiatus and then the winter sports start, I believe on November 14th are the practices. We unfortunately had our director of athletics resign earlier last week. We are prepping for an interim replacement of that I hope to have for the board by the next meeting. I've provided the board with a list of teaching vacancies that we're still struggling through or still trying to fill. You'll notice the Spanish is no longer on the list. And also I interviewed and offered a position to the special education elementary vacancy today as well. So that's another one off the list. And lastly, I've provided the board with information on the Empire State Teaching Residency Program. Right now, all we have is kind of a press release on that, but it looks like the state will be subsidizing teachers who are going back to school to get their master's degree to maintain their certification. So I don't know exactly how that's going to, I think it's going to be, money to support colleges for that program, money to support districts to provide for teachers to go through those programs, but more to come on that. That's all that I have today.
Very much, Dr. Evans. Moving on to Lisa, nothing?
Is there?
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Oh, that's all right. I just want to know about the cook manager. You said that you're going to post it. Would that happen in the next few weeks or so?
Yes.
Is your thought? Okay.
Yep.
And then would they be able to start when? Right away?
Find somebody. Yep.
Okay, and then I have one other question about the bus. I'm assuming that they don't have a hybrid option. Diesel, anything like that.
I can't say for certain that there's no hybrid option, but I don't believe, even if they did, that would be eligible for those timelines that I discussed.
I asked that question to two of the bus representatives, because I have a hybrid vehicle, they told me they don't make that, it's going from gas to, and they also told me the replacement charge on the batteries, $80,000 to $100,000. Just as an FYI, for costs, instead of vehicle, because I asked.
And I'm just thinking about safety too, if something happens to the bus and, I don't know, batteries drained, I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
You have kids far from where they need to be, cold out, all those things, those are concerns that can't just put fuel in.
Yeah, and that's why I think this one bus will be very handy, is we can try it out. We can figure out, how far one bus will get us with the runs that we do.
Well, and you can run it around the village. Maybe send it out to Forestburg. Never go to Wurtsboro Hills.
It gets like 100 miles on charge. Is what
That's nothing. It's just up and down. It's really far away.
100 miles to a charge.
Yeah.
And it's X amount of hours to charge, they definitely have to be back.
19 hours.
Yes. I want to say that out
to
loud.
charge.
And there's a lot more, there's still a lot of work to be done around the supply side of it too.
Yeah.
In terms of electricity getting to our facilities.
Any other questions for Dr. Evans? All right, covered. Lisa, Linda.
Thank you. So I am asking the board to act on two things, and I have one thing for information purposes only. The first is Boys and Girls Club. This is a letter of agreement between us and the Boys and Girls Club. If you remember earlier in the year, we had talked about how we had to make some decisions about some of our after school programming. I've been working with the Boys and Girls Club since the beginning of the school year. One thing that we wanted to see if we could do is to maintain programming at the middle school, because they have certification from the state and using that site after school. They were able to find outside funding to put together programming for our middle school students 1 day a week. And they would be coordinating with our grant director Lyle Menchap to hold that program they offer our middle school students. So again, this is no cost to the district, and it will be 1 day a week for the rest of the year. The second item that I'm asking the board to act on is a contract with Engine. This is to provide art enrichment education activities after school with the School Violence Prevention Program grant. This is, like I said, part of the full services that we're providing as part of that grant. And that will run for 15 weeks. And then the last item is, again, just for information purposes. One thing that we have long been exploring as part of the alternative education program at the St. John's Street School was work-based learning and internships. And so we've been working with our field council to put together a memorandum of understanding to businesses that our students will intern with. And so this is just for information, so you can see the outline of the agreement. And this would be with private businesses within Monticello that our students could intern at. We are also working with the county to set up internships, some of those potentially for pay. That agreement will be
Any questions for Linda?
So that one was the one that was reviewed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not with a specific business, it's just the outline of what the contract will look like. And as we place students, there'll be specific businesses that we associate with.
I have a question about the Youth for Unity curriculum. So in general, what is that, and can parents access that or guardians access that?
Sure. So, I mean, it's something I think that they've done for
Sure.
a very long time in Monticello, but it is a Boys and Girls Club of America curriculum, right? And I can work with them to ensure that we have a link to it on the website. See it.
And so that's the same with Torch Club,
Yes.
that curriculum.
Mhm.
And Torch Club is more like mentoring and tutoring, correct?
That's correct.
And then Youth for Unity is more like diversity and equity.
The curriculum that the program that they offer.
Okay. And then I looked up the other program. There's a lot of information there, so can you give the gist of the other program, the engineering center?
Yeah, sure. So this is a program. So Tom Bosket is art professor at Parsons, and he has been very involved in SALT and other agencies in Sullivan County. This is something that he does himself, though, and so providing. And we included the kind of the overview of the programming, but providing a sequential art enrichment program for students that would be programming after school activities.
So it's art and school violence.
Correct, yeah, it's all the,
Prevention.
yeah, and that, if you remember, that grant was written specifically not only the peer mediation training and the dispute resolution center work that we're doing with that, but the notion that we're providing opportunities for students after school to engage in enrichment activities that could help to help focus on identity and voice development for our students. And so looking at like music and art, and we're hoping that we're adding some dance into that, but all those types of programs we're writing. Those are the kinds of things that we focus on.
One last question about the internship that you're going to talk about next time. I had a parent brainstorm something about maybe having our students go into the community, the village, and create some of the windows of the businesses and something like that, as far as just an idea to give that to maybe, and then have that experience as an artist. So this sort of blends with your number 3 and your number 2 here. So I just thought it had got me thinking of that. So I just thought I would.
Sure, and I will pass that along to Mr. Menchuk because that's definitely something that would be up his alley to explore.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Linda? the engine center, what school would that primarily take place in, the high school?
Middle school.
All good? Thank you very much, Linda. Moving on to Mrs. Greco.
I'd like to move for consideration of action items T1 through T3 and T5 through T and
Could you say that again, please?
for consideration action items T1 to T3 and T5 to T10.
Do I have a second on that? Thank you, Mr. Groden. Any discussion? All in favor? So carried. Mrs. Greco.
I'd like to move for approval of action items T1 through T3 and T5 through T10.
I have a second, Mrs. Jersey. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Thank you very much. Correspondence. None at this time. Janet, questions or comments from the public?
Is there anybody else that wanted to sign up? No, nobody.
Thank you very much, Janet. And that brings me to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Made by Mr. Croden, seconded by Mrs. Rivera. Any discussion? All in favor? So ordered. Students, you guys can hit up